Hey, how's it going? It's me, Jack. Your Buzzword playing trivia nerd here with 48 questions of the academic variety for Buzzword. The second hardest academic questions they have available. These are this batch will be they were written or last edited in 2019. So if there's any um, current events, are going to be related to 2019 current events, which is always fun, as is the computational math questions. Um, so we'll see if I can luck my way into getting some of those right. Uh, this is Buzzword, which is a replication of the toss ups you find in Quiz Bowl. So the clues are going to go from more obscure to more well known. And the sooner you buzz in and get it right, the more points you get. This is all going to be stuff you should have learned in school. So let's check them out. First question.
For any function with this property and any a, the integral from negative a to a is 0. A function with this property has only sine terms in its Fourier series, since the sine function has this property, but cosine does not. A function f has this property if f of minus x always equals minus f of x. For 10 points, name this type of function whose graph has 180-degree rotational symmetry about the origin.
It's not going to be this simple. Odd. All right, I was never going to get there. I don't remember odd functions at all. Huh, that's that is just I mean, I'm sure I took up to Calc 3, so I'm sure I was taught that at some point, but I have no recollection of that at all. Huh.
This ruler gained supremacy in the Mediterranean after his forces won the Battle of Preveza, a victory for his admiral Hayreddin Barbarossa. Louis II drowned while opposing this ruler at the Battle of Mohacs, after which this monarch conquered most of Hungary. Discontent among the Janissaries forced this son of Selim I to abandon his 1529 siege of Vienna. For 10 points, name this magnificent Ottoman.
Yeah, it was Suleiman. I almost had it spelled right too. Yeah, I just figured at some point there, I was like, this sounds a lot like something Suleiman would be, but I do not feel confident enough to buzz in.
In a story by this author, customers at a tea house push away a table to reveal the gravestone of the old commandant, who once used a machine filled with needles to carry out executions. This author of In the Penal Colony also wrote a novella about a former salesman who dies after an apple becomes stuck in his back. For 10 points.
That's Kafka. Yeah, some wild stuff there, Franz. Sure sounds like. And obviously that last one was the metamorphosis. It's a weird way that story ends, where Gregor Samsa dies because somebody in his family threw an apple at him because after he turned into a cockroach, and then it just got stuck there and festered and killed him. It's weird. It's a weird story. One of many from Franz Kafka, it seems.
In most jurisdictions, the unclassified type of these actions includes possession of cannabis. As a general rule, punishment for this type of action may involve up to 12 months in jail rather than in prison.
Okay, I thought that's what they were going for. So yeah, most places marijuana is a misdemeanor. I guess they didn't want to say this type of crime early in there because it would make it too obvious that it was going to be a misdemeanor or a felony.
The rates of formation and destruction of these particles are described by the Einstein coefficients. If the energy of these particles exceeds the work function, they can cause a metal to lose electrons. These particles interfered.
It's photons. So we're talking about the photoelectric effect there. I was adjusting the audio in the middle of that question. I probably, because this week the reader's a little louder than normal. So I took her down a little bit. Hopefully that'll be okay. In the middle of a question, because it's the only time I can get a little self-producing there. Still got 15 points on that question.
The main building of this city's namesake university is among a series of historical skyscrapers called the Seven Sisters. Until 2017, this city's Federation Tower was the tallest building in Europe. Recreational sites in this city include amusement rides in Gorky Park, as well as the Bolshoi Theater.
It's Moscow? I didn't know they had the biggest amusement ride. They said that, right? They have the biggest amusement ride in Europe? Interesting. All right.
A station master in this play shouts bravo as a governess named Charlotta entertains guests at a party by performing magic tricks. At the end of this play, the forgotten servant Fears accepts his fate and appears to die on stage. An estate is transferred from Madame Ranevskaya to the merchant Lopakin Inn for 10 points. What Anton Chekhov play that concludes with the sound of axes chopping?
Okay, it is the Cherry Orchard. At some point you're just like, all right, this is a Chekhov play. Do I remember which Chekhov play was about the transfer of an estate? And turns out I don't, but I do know which one is titled after trees.
This band used the lyric, "I came here looking for another excuse to run away from something beautiful" at the start of the song Strangers. Another song by this band claims, "You're making the typical me break my typical rules." In 2019, this band reunited after a hiatus to release the album Happiness Begins, which contains the single Sucker. For 10 points, Kevin...
No, it's... All right. It's just no. I have little to no knowledge of Jonas Brothers, except one of them is in Dance. I think it's just pronounced dance, but it's spelled Dance. Who have that Cake by the Ocean song, which is not a good song.
A group of objects with non-zero values for this quantity has no stable equilibrium due to Earnshaw's theorem. Multiplying this quantity by the cross product of velocity and magnetic field gives magnetic force. The product of two values of this quantity is divided by distance squared and multiplied by a constant k to give electrostatic force. For 10 points, identify this quantity symbolized Q and measured in coulombs.
So charge? Okay. Yeah. Ugh. These are not in my realm of knowing for the most part, but just scrapping and scraping to get points here.
This novel's protagonist is cleared of a murder charge with help from the Irish magistrate Mr. Kerwin. A servant named Justine Moritz is wrongfully executed in this novel despite the protestations of Elizabeth. This novel opens with several letters written by the Arctic explorer Rob.
I don't know if Frankenstein is fully epistolary, but there is definitely a part, because that's where both Frankenstein and his monster flee to the Arctic, and there's like a denouement or part of it that takes place there.
One of this institution's practices was held to be illegal in the Supreme Court case Reynolds v. United States. A leader of this institution named Wilford Woodruff issued an 1890 manifesto that helped a territory to obtain statehood 6 years later. In 1978, this institution began allowing African Americans to enter its temples and become priests. For 10 points, what church that now disavows polygamy is based?
Okay. Yeah, that was all just stuff about Mormonism that I didn't know. But scrap and scrape and get the 10 points.
Pencil and paper ready. Desmond rolls 4 standard 6-sided dice and needs to know the probability that at least one die shows an even number. He decides to first calculate the probability that all 4 dice show an odd number, given that each die has a 1, a 3, and a 5, which is 3 odd numbers in all. By subtracting that value from 1, he computes, for 10 points, what probability of getting at least one even number.
Let's see. Okay, yeah. That's fine.
A woman in this novel named Dee Dee has an affair with Joan Gilling, a former physics student who eventually hangs herself. This novel's protagonist hemorrhages after losing her virginity to a math professor named Irwin. After developing writer's block, this novel's protagonist receives electroshock therapy. Esther Greenwood's experiences with mental illness are chronicled in...
Oh. Yeah, Esther Greenwood. Sylvia Plath. That's the bell jar. Sylvia Plath's only novel. Yeah, there's some deep stuff happening in there. Yeah, just hanging out until they say something I know. And these are very late in these questions so far.
Though his forces were greatly outnumbered, this man defeated an army of the Maratha Empire at the Battle of Assaye. In a later campaign, this general outmaneuvered Auguste de Marmont to crush a French force at the Battle of Salamanca. He linked up with Gebhard von Blücher to defeat an opponent who had recently escaped from Elba. For 10 points, name this British general who defeated Napoleon at Waterloo.
I was a little worried at the beginning. Arthur Wellesley. This is just Wellington. Okay, they took Wellington. As well they should. That's how he is known. They named those boots after him.
This body of water adjoins the massive Garabogazkal Lagoon, which often has a higher salinity than the Dead Sea. Beluga caviar typically comes from sturgeon found in this body of water. Near the city of Atirau, the Ural River flows into...
This is a Caspian... Okay, it is. I doubted myself very heavily as I was writing that. As I was writing Caspian Sea, I was like, no, it's going to be the Black Sea, I think. But I kept with my guns, put in a Caspian Sea, got it done. Got 15 points, which is at a premium so far in this round.
The 2016 Senate race in this state included a campaign ad in which a rifle was assembled by the blindfolded Democratic candidate Jason Kander. A blackmail scandal involving nude photos of a hairdresser caused the ex-Navy SEAL Eric Greitens to resign as governor of this state. For 10 points, what state's 2018 Senate election ended with Josh Hawley's victory over Democratic incumbent Claire McCaskill?
Yeah, she's Missouri. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I should know where Josh Hawley's from, but I don't.
The Chicago typeface was designed for this line of products by artist Susan Kerr. Ridley Scott directed a commercial inspired by George Orwell that
sweet. Take that. Maybe that's pop culture. I think that's going to be one of the pop culture ones, but it's Macintosh computers.
Lee Bong-chang's attempted assassination of this man became known in Korea as the Patriotic Deed. This man was forced to give the Humanity Declaration, which renounced his claims of divinity. After accepting the terms of the Potsdam Declaration, he sent emissaries aboard the USS Missouri to sign the instrument of surrender.
Hojo was the emperor at the time? Hirohito. Yeah, I don't know why I put Hojo. That wasn't even close. Oh, I just combined Hirohito and Tojo in my head and came up with somebody who doesn't exist. That was a very bad buzz.
Characters in this play sing about a dog named Blue who treat a possum in a hollow log. Alberta dies while giving birth to Raynell in this play. At the end of this drama, a mentally disabled man named Gabriel attempts to play a trumpet. Corey is prohibited from joining a football team in this play. The former baseball player Troy Maxson tries to build the title structures in, for 10 points, What Drama by August Wilson.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of stuff that happened in Fences that I don't know about. But just tell me, tell me what, give me a clue to what the title could be, and I'll take it from there. Ugh.
Every year, over 100 people run across this lake's frozen surface in a marathon finishing at the village of Listvianka. This lake is the habitat of the Golomyanka, the deepest living freshwater fish in the world. The cities of Ulan-Ude and Irkutsk are located near this lake. Nearly a fifth...
It's gotta be by call, then. Yeah, talk about fish that live in very deep... Oh yeah, fish that live in very deep places. How about the deepest lake on Earth? Lake by call. Let's go.
During the administration of this U.S. president, the American ship Mayaguez was seized in Asia. He urged Americans to wear buttons with the acronym WIN, which stood for Whip Inflation Now. This man authorized Operation Frequent Wind to evacuate thousands from Saigon. The first person to be appointed vice president under the 25th Amendment.
Oh, wait. Yeah. The first person to Spiro Agnew resigned or was fired or stopped being vice president, and then Jerry Ford took over, and then became president. So he was never actually elected to either vice or president of the United States, and yet he served in both capacities.
This U.S. state was home to Tiny Bubbles singer Don Ho, a wedding song from this...
Yeah, I'll take Don Ho's from Hawaii. Tiny Bubbles? I'll take that. What's the wedding song they're talking about? Like Aloha Oi? No, that's a sad song. You wouldn't play that at a wedding.
4 large elements of this entity are posited to have migrated outwards in the Nice model of its evolution.
What?
Its formation is explained by the nebular hypothesis
Okay.
and may have been triggered by a shockwave from a supernova. This system is sometimes said to extend to the heliopause. The scattered disk, the Kuiper belt, and 8 planets are all part of...
All right, that was wild. That's a wild question. That's just about the solar system. Huh.
A section of the Bayeux Tapestry marked Isti Mirand Stella likely depicts this object.
It's gotta be that. It's gotta be that. What else could it be? Nothing. They wouldn't ask about anything else about the Bayeux Tapestry except for Halley's Comet.
An explorer gave rapids on this river a name meaning China in the mistaken belief that this river was the Northwest Passage. The village of Stadacona was located along this river. In the 16th century, Iroquoian peoples were driven out of this river's...
Let's just make a guess. Yeah, that was the one that I should have guessed. I thought it sounded like the St. Lawrence. But then I flipped over to Hudson after I heard Iroquois. Yeah. All right, bad switch there.
In a 2019 speech, this activist denounced fairy tales of eternal economic growth and claimed that a 50% risk is simply not acceptable to those who have to live with the consequences. This activist's dreams were stolen by the empty words of world leaders.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be Greta Thunberg. I'm glad they let me put that extraneous R in there. Like, activist, it's the only one thing it's going to be at that point, especially when they're talking about current people messing up the future.
The addition of this gas can be catalyzed by the rhodium-containing Wilkinson's catalyst. It is the most common gas oxidized in a fuel cell. When this gas undergoes combustion, the only product is water.
Yeah, that's oxidization of a gas that makes water. It's going to be hydrogen.
According to Ovid, this person was the son of the nymph Liriope and the river god Cephasus. He is shown changing into a hand holding onto an egg in a Salvador Dali painting that depicts this character's metamorphosis. The genus of plants that contains daffodils is named for him. The nymph Echo was rejected.
Oh, Narcissus, not Adonis. Oh, yeah. That was just messing up. Yeah, I knew it was. I just said the wrong handsome Greek. Not my week for level C here.
A museum in this country contains a medieval silver hoard called the St. Ninian's Isle Treasure. The disruption of 1843 caused divisions within this country's national church, which is also known as the Kirk. In what is now this country, Pictish kings established a cult of St. Andrew, who is now this country's...
Oops, Scotland. Scotland! I don't know if they would have given me the extraneous R in Scotland.
This man had his only losing season as a head coach while leading the Miami Dolphins in 2006. His players defeated Oklahoma in...
Yeah, Nick Saban coached the Dolphins for a little bit. And then he made the right choice by knowing that college coaches don't fit in with NFL coach, like they don't fit into the NFL anymore. Just doesn't work. Pete Carroll's going to be the last one. All these dudes get it, like Urban Meyer, disaster, terrible. Who was the guy that took over Atlanta and then got into a motorcycle? It's just terrible. It's a terrible choice. Never head coach from college directly to head coach NFL. Don't do it. Don't hire anybody that way. Hire him on as an assistant first. See if they can understand how the NFL works.
This novel describes the drawbridge and roof-mounted gun on a house called The Castle, where Wemmick lives with an aged parent. A lawyer in this novel named Jaggers visits a client at Satis House, where all the clocks are stopped and cobwebs cover an uneven...
We're in Dickens, so it's going to be Great Expectations, yeah. A house stopped in time. It's Miss Havisham.
While trying to rescue his beloved from the villainous Maliagant, this man rides 2 horses to death and must endure the dishonor of traveling in a cart. He is tricked into sleeping with a resident of Corbinick named Elaine, who is the daughter of the Fisher King. The Lady of the Lake raises this man...
Oh, no. It was Lancelot. I knew it was one of them. I was just getting through. I should have just stuck with Lancelot, I guess. I didn't actually have knowledge there. It's one of the knights of the Round Table. After Lady in the Lake, I just impulsively or reflexively buzzed to then put in Arthur. Realized that was not going to be Arthur, and then just tried to choose one of the other ones and chose wrong.
In March 2019, Andrew Booker found a way to add 3 of these numbers, each created from inputs that are 16 digits long, so they sum to 33. Taxicab numbers are numbers that can be formed by adding 2 of these numbers in several different ways. 1,729 is an example. For 10 points, name these numbers such as 125, 64, 27.
Okay. Oop. Oh, cubes. Cubes, not squares. Yeah, 124 or 125 is not a square. It's a cube. All right.
This philosopher reworked his lecture, The Framework, into the question concerning technology. His black notebooks include his claim that Edmund Husserl was a second-rate philosopher because Husserl was Jewish.
Is it Burn
This
Book?
man developed the concept
book.
of design, or being there. In a 1935 lecture, he claimed there was inner truth and greatness in the Nazi Party. For 10 points, what German philosopher wrote Being and Time?
Is that Hegel? Heidegger. Yep, I knew it was an H. Forgot which one was the Nazi.
This artist frequently painted pictures of his wife, Suzanne Leenhoff. His brother, Eugène, was married to the painter Berthe Morisot and appears wearing white pants and a black jacket in this artist's picture, Music in the Tuileries. A nude woman and 2 clothed men enjoy a picnic in this artist's painting, The Luncheon on the Grass.
Who did Luncheon on the Grass?
For 10 points, name this French painter who influenced the Impressionists.
Manet? Luncheon on the Grass. forgot about that one. It's hard to have a giveaway for Manet, I think. I guess influencing the Impressionists, but Monet did too.
While campaigning, this man toured the country on a train known as the Red Special. He was jailed in 1894 after leading the American Railway Union in the Pullman strike. This man said, "While there is a soul in prison, I am not free," after being convicted under the Espionage Act in 1918. He won nearly 1 million votes from prison in the 1920 presidential election. For 10 points, name this member of the Socialist Party.
Oh, who was this guy? Debs? It was Eugene Debs. Just scrapping and scraping here. I don't have much to say because it's just things I don't know that much about other than can name them.
Pencil and paper ready.
Oh no.
Leonard needs to find the only value of x that satisfies the equation 1/2 x equals 2 times the quantity x minus 1. By using the distributive property, then rearranging the equation so that all the x variable terms are on one side with all the constant terms on the other side, he is able to compute.
Oh, I had hope there for a second. I was like, 4. Oh, no. It's 4/3. Yeah. Again, that's about as much effort as I'm going to put into this.
This character is impersonated by Puzzle, a good-hearted donkey who is manipulated by an ape named Shift. He is falsely equated with Tash, the god of Calormen, by the villains of the novel The Last Battle. After being sacrificed at the stone table...
Okay. Hoi, those were some proper nouns for sure. But then they said a proper noun that I knew in the final battles, the last... chronological book in the Chronicles of Narnia. Maybe the last one that was written too? Anyway, yeah. And so when you talk about Jesus lions, it's in Chronicles of Narnia. It's going to be Aslan.
Adhemar Lepuy fought in this conflict as the Pope's personal representative. During this conflict, a besieged army was inspired to hold out when Peter Bartholomew claimed to have found the Holy Lance. At the urging of the Byzantine Emperor Alexios I, Pope Urban II launched this campaign to retake land from the Fatimid Caliphate. For 10 points, in 1099, Christian forces...
Let's just say it's the first one. Oh, come on. Come on. They didn't have that ready to go already? Let's just say it's the First Crusade. They'll give me that.
This composer wanted young amateurs to be the typical performers of his opera Neues Flood. He co-founded the Oldenburg Festival along with his frequent librettist Eric Crozier and the tenor Peter Piers, who was this man's lover. Piers played the title role in this composer's opera about a village fisherman shunned as a murderer. For 10 points, what Englishman...
Says Britain. So I guess that was Peer Gynt. No, Peer Gynt wasn't. No, Peer Gynt was Norwegian. What was the... God, I don't even remember which one that was at the end. But, I mean... One thing about English composers, especially this one, is that they're easy to remember because his last name is just his demonym.
Several people died in this state's town of Concow due to a disaster named for the nearby Camp Creek Road. Billions of dollars of fines led to the bankruptcy of a company blamed for the 2018 destruction of this state's town of Paradise. In October 2019, the utility company...
This is California. Because the Paradise thing was the Aaron Brockovich lawsuit that she organized. Was a part of, and that was Paradise, California, which was against PG&E. I guess they couldn't have PG&E be the answer to this question because that's a little too tough. But yeah, I'm gonna be California.
The island effect predicts how this biological quantity changes based on the resources available to animals such as the moa or Komodo dragon. After the extinction of Megalodon, this value increased significantly in baleen whales. As this trait of a vertebrate species increases, the species requires thicker bones to support itself.
Yeah, I mean, checks out. It's just You need bigger bones if you're going to be a big boy. Big boy or big girl. Big boys and big girls need big bones. That's what science says.
This author wrote about the waste of broad, muddy fields that lie by the road to the contagious hospital in his poem Spring and All. His poem The Dance describes villagers who go round and around in Bruegel's great picture, The Kermesse. One of his short poems centers on plums in an icebox, and another depicts a tulle glazed with rainwater. For 10
it's
points,
the Red Wheelbarrow. So it's William Carlos Williams. Yeah, we're talking about the Red Wheelbarrow. Ugh. There's not anywhere for me to buzz early on these. Just talk about weird stuff, the weird stuff that William Carlos Williams writes poems about. And you get to the Red Wheelbarrow, and then I can help you.
In June 2019, this country's sovereign wealth fund announced plans to divest some fossil fuel holdings. In April 2019, its Labour Party withdrew support for exploration of oil fields off this country's Lofoten Islands in the Arctic Circle. This country gets most of its energy from hydroelectric power, so it exports most of its North Sea.
This is Norway. That's why Norway gets paid. It's because they don't use the oil they make. It's how you make money.
For up to 14 days after these events, blood levels of lactate dehydrogenase and troponin I and T may be elevated. Taking aspirin daily may prevent these.
Okay. Yeah, aspirin stops heart attacks or prevents heart attacks. Helps prevent heart attacks.
This TV show features a pet worm named Slimy. A character on this show named Alan runs a general store once owned by Mr. Hooper. In 2017,
Mr. Hooper was on Sesame Street. I can take that. And I got the devil's celerity. Ha!
A member of this family negotiated the Convention of Kanagawa while commanding a fleet of black ships. Another member of this family sent the message, "We have met the enemy and they are..."
That's the Perry. So is that? Yeah, that was Oliver Perry, who forcibly opened up Japan, essentially. And then Matthew Perry, who won the Battle of Lake Erie. And then went on to star in Friends and The Whole 9 Yards and its sequel, The Whole 10 Yards.
This quantity has no impact on the reaction rate for a zero-order reaction. The product of this quantity for the reactants appears in the rate law for an elementary reaction. In titrations, a solution with a known value for this quantity is used to find this quantity for another solution.
Oh, okay. That was a lot of quantities and this and that and quantities. All right, I'm not gonna lie, that was not one of my stronger performances on these questions, but that's how trivia goes sometimes. Sometimes you get questions and then sometimes you get questions where you just kind of have to hang out and wait for them to say some nouns that get into your depth of knowledge about a topic. That's it for week 6 of the fall winter 2022 practice for level C here. If you want to check out some of these questions yourself, if you think you'd do better than me, you probably would on this week. You won't be able to play this week, but you can head over to neqt.com/buzzword. If you do me a favor and hit subscribe and watch some videos on the channel, that'd be great. Thanks for watching. We'll be back.